Arkham Asylum Living Hell was written by Dan Slott and drawn by Ryan Soup in 2003. It's a 6-issue miniseries following shortly after Gotham Central came out. And it's kind of, not necessarily a companion piece, but an interesting contrast to it, seeing as Gotham Central is all about the GCPD characters and, how Batman affects them, but not necessarily exploring Batman, but just exploring them and how Batman affects them. This is that, but for the Arkham employees and the inmates. It's all about a guy named Warren White, who was essentially this jerk who was committing tax fraud and whatnot, and cheating people out of a lot of money. And he had the nickname of the Great White Shark. And what happens is he's about to be put in jail, but he gets up on the insanity plea. So what happens is he gets put in Arkham, which creates a little bit of a problem with the fact that he doesn't seem to know what Arkham is, even though he's been living in Gotham for at least a while, if not his whole life. And this is very much late into Batman's career. He's, he has a status quo with each of his villains. He's fought, all his rogues gallery by this point. So it's weird that somebody living in Gotham doesn't know about Arkham, seeing as how many breakouts would have happened at this point, and they even talk about how often there are breakouts. But, whatever. So essentially, he, gets put in Arkham, and he's out of his depth. So, once we get to Arkham, it's really brilliant. The atmosphere is great. Dan Slott can't write Peter Parker to save his life, but boy can he write the Asylum inmates. And he has a really good voice for all of the Arkham inmates, and just, he doesn't necessarily have a good voice for Batman. We see Batman briefly, there's kind of a problem with that, but I'll get to that later. But the art is pretty good, but what really makes this atmospheric and creepy is the lettering and the inking. Because there's in particular a point when all the inmates are calling Warren Fish, and he's the new Fish, and whatever, and it keeps repeating, and it's like it's coming from everywhere, and it's kind of almost written on the walls. It's not actually written on the walls, but the way the lettering is just kind of almost as if it's all around him, in his head, and it's really, really effectively done. Another thing that's worked really well is it created Aaron Cash, who a lot of people know from the Arkham games, specifically Asylum, which this is somewhat, the game is not necessarily based on this, it's more so based on the Serious House on Serious Earth book by Morrison, but it kind of has some references to this, especially with the fact that Aaron Cash is in that, and he's missing his hand thanks to Killer Croc, and has a hook for hand. Cash is great, and this is also the first appearances of Great White Shark, Humpty Dumpty, I think Junkyard Dog. There's a cult leader character who I think appeared in Beware the Batman, if I'm correct. Doodlebug, and Jane Doe. And Humpty Dumpty and Great White Shark are of course the breakout characters, but Jane Doe's appeared in the New 52, I think Detective Annual, and some of these, Humpty Dumpty was in Beware the Batman. One of these other characters was also in Beware the Batman. They've kind of had an effect on the Batman universe now. Small ones, but they're definitely, kind of been accepted as part of it. So, another really cool thing about this book is guess what this miniseries is the minor details and stuff like that of the setup, because like there's some really good foreshadowing that one of the doctors is Jane Doe in disguise. There's some good setup for the fact that Doodlebug is sneaking off, or is having a guard escort him to Magpie's cell every once in a while. That, like, that's subtly set up with the fact that we see him in a guard's silhouette walking by like they're walking by a window while Warren's in a cabinet psychiatrist at Arkham. There's just a lot of minor things that kind of build up, and it's really well done. Like they don't hold the reader's hand. That's kind of just all I can say for the first two issues, just really good. Then issue 3 is all about Humpty Dumpty, and it gives his backstory. It's a really tragic, like kind of almost laughably tragic and sad thing. But what's great about him is, you know, he's very sympathetic, not in a, you know, kind of Mr. Freeze. You know, the writers are constantly trying to make you feel like, oh, leave him alone, kind of way, but rather in a sense of this guy's actually, you know, not trying to hurt anyone, is genuinely doesn't realize he's hurting people when he does, and like he's kind of just really caring and wouldn't intentionally kill anyone or hurt anyone at all. He doesn't mean to. He feels like an actual mentally ill person. Like he feels like somebody who would actually be put in a mental institution. Which is interesting because, of course, the idea of Arkham is always you need to have a place like Arkham. You know, instead of putting the crazies like Joker in jail, you have to put them in Arkham for just a number of reasons, and you have to kind of perpetuate the madness there in order to keep them from, you know, slowly like affecting the system and whatnot. And to just like it makes sense why people like the Joker put Arkham Asylum and why Arkham Asylum is necessary. But it's interesting to then contrast those villains, the eccentric ones like Joker, with somebody who actually would be in a mental institution. And that's just kind of a really cool thing. Other thing great about that issue is there's a lot of cool references, like he modified, or not modified, but he tried to fix a clock tower, and it ended up sending the clock, like hand flying, and smashing a bunch of, like, I forget what they're called, but the, like, not billboards, not logos, but like the giant, like, things on top of buildings that you see in a lot of Silver Age and Golden Age things, issues of Batman. And if those, you know, fall off the buildings and kill people, it's kind of really dark and terrifying. But one of the things that falls is the Shrek department store cat face, and that's a cool little reference. And then we kind of established that so those things did exist in Gotham's past. When Batman was starting, when actually Barbara was still Batgirl, and she's the one who took him down back in the day. And you know, we find out that this incident is why there aren't evils anymore. And they even, you know, jokingly kind of make reference to it being the Sprang Act that you know, made it illegal to have those, which is funny because Dick Sprang, of course, was a great Batman artist from the Golden and Silver Age, and so he drew, you know, a lot of those sort of things on rooftops. But yeah, so the first, actually, there's more issue of good, like really good stuff, which is the Breakout. Begins, and you get some great stuff with Aaron Cash and Jeremiah Arkham, and kind of, you know, why they still work at Arkham, why they put up with it. It's just good, solid character stuff. But then after that, it kind of just, beforehand, throughout the book, you had seen occult stuff, and there was Jason Blood working with Bullet on stuff, on some like cult thing that's going on, and it's not that's there, but it kind of comes out of left field that it's so important. That it kind of becomes just the focus of the last two issues, and it's all just like it actually. It's just all about demons and stuff like that, and Jason Blood, I guess, becomes or looks out or whatever Etrigan. I know nothing about the character, so I don't know what is going on there, but he, like, fights off this other demon thing, and it's kind of confusing, and I guess they're trying to tie stuff into Lovecraft, because obviously Arkham, the name Arkham is an homage to Arkham from a H.P. Lovecraft story. That's weird anyway without the name initially. But still, it's a little, just a little out of left field and and again, a little bit confusing and just jarringly kind of shifting the tone into something very different and making the title incredibly literal, and maybe it's not bad occult supernatural stuff, but it doesn't fit with the rest of the story. But even though that's a problem for the last two issues, Warren White's transformation into Great White Shark is really good. He becomes Great White Shark. His face gets messed up. He loses his nose and his ears and stuff like that. He just kind of accepts the madness and breaks. It's really well done. But they could have done that without supernatural stuff or without, out of left field, batshit crazy, Etrigan, going around zapping demons and whatnot, and ghosts, and Poison Ivy becoming a Venus flytrap, like actually becoming a Venus flytrap, and like Magpie's head being replaced by an actual magpie head. So that it's just kind of out of place. But then Bruce shows up, and it kind of creates a problem where Bruce just says, "Oh no, they weren't really demons. It was just fear toxin." Which is weird because he lives in a world where half his friends are monsters and demons and whatnot, and the Spectre and Deadman and everything, and he knows of Etrigan's existence. I'm pretty sure he's fought alongside Etrigan before, so Etrigan, the inmates would probably say, there's this guy who's calling himself Etrigan going around, and probably described him. So you'd think Bruce would say, wait a second, that means that a demon who I know I've worked with before, who was a good guy, he was defeating a giant demon thing from destroying Arkham right in my home turf. Meaning there was a demon that almost destroyed my city. So why would he not be investigating that? He just kind of shrugs everything off, even though again obviously that just doesn't make any sense, because again Etrigan was there, and you tell Batman, any version of Batman, we saw demons in Gotham, he'd probably immediately contact the Spectre, Jim Corrigan, Boston Brand, or Deadman, or Zatanna. Or if he hears about Etrigan, he'd obviously go to Jason Blood and say, hey, what going on in Gotham? He would just kind of, not bat an eyelash at it. That's just weird. It doesn't really make any sense, but regardless, it's still a good story. So the first 4 issues are great. The story overall is pretty good, including the last 2 issues. But as for the story overall, I'd give it a 6 out of 10, or 6.5 out of 10. But for the first 4 issues, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Those early, the first 4 issues are just amazing, and There's some really great ideas and really good character stuff with pretty much everyone. Great voices for all the villains. Really atmospheric. You feel like the Arkham game, you feel like the last Arkham, you feel like the Morrison stuff, the Morrison series, House and series worth. Pick it up. It's a really good 6-issue arc. Find it for cheap. The deluxe edition just came out recently. It's definitely worth it.